This video has been funded in part by the Guild via Patreon. Check out the links in the description or at the end of this video for more details. Hey everyone, Chris Gildart here. Koei and Tecmo have put out some amazing franchises in their time. Dynasty Warriors was the one that got me and many of us into following the company, but do you guys know some of their lesser known titles? Like, you might know Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden, and possibly Monster Rancher, but who has heard of Rygar? Rygar started its life as an action platformer in the arcades in 1986. It's actually pretty fun, and you can play it now on PSN or grab the Tecmo Classic Arcade Collection on the original Xbox. They then released a version on the NES in 1987, and that was more of an action-adventure game. Then, in 2002, we got a new 3D action-adventure game on the PS2. This is the one I have the most experience with because my NES doesn't fully work properly. But we're not talking about the PS2 version today, because in 2009, we got a Wii game, which is just a port of the PS2 version with a different character model. Okay? I guess that's alright. I mean, it should still be an alright game, right? I may have played this game before, but the Wii version might offer something new to me. Who knows? It's been a while since I played the PS2 version as well, so we're going into this with a breath of fresh air. So, why don't we get started with the first Pro! Rygar was the main reason I wanted this year's theme to be Legacy, and the first thing I noticed right away after starting up this game was that I recognized some of the monsters and items I was picking up from the arcade game. I thought it was really cool to see those pill bug-like enemies at the beginning of the game, similar to some of the first enemies you run into in said arcade title. They even included the large urns or whatever they are that you turn around in order to open sealed passages. These were at the end of every stage in the arcade title. Not only that, the disc armor you use throughout the game really feels like it harkens back to the arcade classic with the way it controls. Overall, it feels like this game just takes its source material and expands on it. This game also takes a lot of cues from the NES release in that it has a lot of progression similar to the Legend of Zelda games. As you continue through the game, you'll earn new disc armors with different attack styles, new special moves, and abilities that will help you move on to the next area of the game. Overall, the legacy of Rygar is incredibly present in this title. Con! Yeah, and you know what's not present? Controls. I mean, yeah, you press buttons and you get an action. Everything kind of works, but not the way that it should. Similar to Dynasty Warriors 2 through 4, when you start an attack, you are locked in a direction. You're not able to move around and attack the multitudes of enemies that you may have to deal with. And when you start getting new disc armors and movesets, you'll feel like each one has its own issues you have to work around. I also have to mention the camera. It's very similar to games like Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, and God of War, where the camera is locked when you enter certain rooms and areas on the map. You have no control over the camera. This means you may find yourself stopping while you are running, or just running in the wrong direction if the camera changes and your thumbs slip. If you're holding the same direction you were when you entered the new camera angle, you'll just continue moving forward, but the moment you change your direction in any way, you'll start moving that way in relation to the camera. It's so frustrating. I had some trouble with one of the bosses because the camera couldn't decide if it wanted to show me where the boss was or go back to the default position of the room. I fought with these controls so frequently it broke my excitement to play Rygar to begin with. I still pushed on because I remember enjoying the PS2 game a lot. But was it all rose-tinted glasses? I don't even know anymore. It might have been due to the type of Wii controller you use for this game. You specifically use the Wiimote and Nunchuck. There is no other way to play it. I think this game would have benefited from using the classic controller, which would have replicated the PS2 controls to a T. It's just a poor decision on Tecmo's part to make you only use the Wiimote and Nunchuck. Pro! Now, even though the controls limit you, you can get used to them and start feeling a sense of satisfaction from letting loose on a bunch of enemies. One of the things they did right was giving Rygar 3 different disc armors that he can use, each with varying power and movesets. The first one you get is a medium range and attacks right in front of him. It moves at a moderate speed and deals moderate damage. The next disc armor that you'll get is a heavier one, which has a much wider range and a lower number of attacks to its combo set. It also moves incredibly slow but deals high damage. This is really really useful when you're in a room full of enemies that don't move too quickly and can get a bunch of attacks in one sweep. The last one is the lighter weight disc armor. This one has the highest combo set with the weakest range and damage of all three. It only really attacks the immediate area rather than throwing it around like the other two, but it is wicked fast. This is really useful for all of those enemies that can sneak a hit through your combos with the other two disc armors. Because of these differences, you really need to think about what's truly going to be your best move. You may want to keep your distance and use the heavy disc armor, or get right up close and personal with the light one. Each one provides a different playstyle, and you'll probably have a favorite. God! One thing I kept thinking while I was playing this game was, is this really a Wii game? Between the poor voice acting and the jagged models, I couldn't help but think this game looked more like a Dreamcast game. If someone told me that this game started as a Dreamcast title during development and later shifted to the PS2, I would totally believe you. Honestly, they should have recasted everyone for this port. No role sounds professional enough for this time in gaming. Even the aspect ratio takes you back to a bygone era of gaming and media. I don't know why we don't have a widescreen option for this game. Whenever I go to play a Wii game that's still in 4:3, I feel confused. This came out when the PS3 and Xbox 360 were a thing. They defaulted to widescreen display, and in most cases, if you converted it back to 4:3, it'll give you those black bars along the top and bottom. I know it's a weird complaint to have, but I really dislike having black space on my screen. Overall, I feel like the quality of the textures and models could have been made much better for the Wii release. By the time we got this Wii port, Halo had already been on the market for 7 years, the PS3 was 2 years old, Dynasty Warriors 4 had better voice acting and graphics, and it came out 5 years before this port. Now, I know this was at a time when remastering games wasn't as big of a craze, but if you're going to port your game from nearly 6 years ago, you should probably buff it up a bit. You know, make it a little shinier, sound a little less shitty. Pro! Now, the graphics and the voice acting may be dated, but the atmosphere that this game has can't go without mention. You feel like you've been taken back to an alternate dimension of Greece that's been overthrown by monsters. Rygar in the original PS2 version definitely feels more like a gladiator. His Wii port outfit does stand out a bit compared to the environments, but you do get used to it pretty quickly. The game isn't afraid to go from dingy browns and grays to bright, vibrant colors. The lack of HD display does hold it back from being as bright as it possibly could be for the time of its release, but you can see what the designers were going for. They used their limitations to their advantage in getting the best feel for the environments as possible. The story also isn't too bad at all for what it is. Rygar, a noble warrior, is being celebrated when Princess Britney Spears over here gets stolen by some demons. Rygar tries to fight them off, but he gets owned. As he's falling down a hole, he finds the legendary disc armor, a weapon bestowed by the gods. He then decides to use the disc armor to visit each of the temples of the gods to get their strength and defeat the bad guy. Not gonna lie, I haven't actually finished this game yet. I'm on the final boss of the PS2 version and I keep getting my ass handed to me, and this boss in the Wii version pretty much made me rage quit because I couldn't beat him for some reason. But I know how the story ends, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I do really like the game's ending. If the story seems like something that would interest you, I'd recommend checking it out, whether you do some digging on the internet or you actually go out and finish the game yourself. God! One new thing that was added to the Wii version was Gladiator mode, essentially an arena brawling mode that pits you against several waves of enemies one after another, with the odd wave being a boss from the story mode. You know, this would actually be a really cool addition to the game if it weren't for one teeny tiny insignificant fact. This fact brutally murdered my chances of succeeding and never allowed me to get anything more than a D ranking. And that is that Rygar's moveset has changed. Now you can only attack using single attacks. There are no combos, no multiple disc armors to help you take down certain enemies, and on top of that, the controls have changed to motion controls. You need to swing the controller downward in order to attack directly in front of you. You can also swing sideways, which will swipe horizontally and attack many enemies. And that's about it. Rygar moves so slowly in this mode, it's like they thought it would be fun to wade through molasses while battling demons from hell. Yeah, this is fun! As I said, I could only get as high as a D no matter how hard I actually tried. This mode was more annoying than inviting. If this game was released without this mode, I would have enjoyed it much better, because I never played Gauntlet mode after getting the footage for the sake of this review. The story mode is the only thing you really need to worry about. Just Just stay away from Gladiator mode. Overall, I didn't have a terrible time with Rygar on the Wii, but I feel like it could have benefited by some minor tweaks that would have made it feel like an improvement from the PS2 version rather than just a port. First off, the legacy of Rygar is well represented in this game, and even though I played the PS2 title before the arcade one, while playing the Wii port, I was enjoying the fact that I was recognizing a lot of the different enemies and items in the game. The game's mechanics are really satisfying to get a good understanding of the controls of each disc armor and how it stacks up to the various enemies you'll have to face. I had a lot more fun once I got all the disc armors in the game. The atmosphere is super solid. I felt like I was in ancient Greece fighting the demons of Hades, and the story is interesting enough to keep you wondering what will come next. That being said, the atmosphere is diminished by the dull graphics and textures. I feel like the Wii is capable of much more. Look at games like Xenoblade Chronicles, Skyward Sword, and even the Resident Evil port on the system. This console is very able, but Tecmo just put out the same game from the PS2 with the only change being a new mode and Rygar's changed model, which honestly sticks out at first. You do get used to it, but it's such a stark difference from the PS2 model. You'll constantly be fighting with the controls, whether it's the camera, the combat, or the waggle controls in Gauntlet mode. And I didn't mention it previously, but it's weird to not have an intro cinematic like the PS2 version. There is a cinematic thing that plays when you leave the menu long enough, but it's just the trailer, which isn't anything special. And the other thing is that the Wii version is still in 4:3 aspect ratio. Meanwhile, the trailer is in 16:9. This game was released in 2007. 16:9 was pretty much standard at that point for gaming. And why advertise a game in 16:9 if it's not available in that? So with that being said, I give Rygar, The Battle for Argus on Wii, a 5.5 out of 10. I just felt disappointed at every turn. Even if they didn't update the models to have a higher polygon count, they could have retextured them for the sake of this port. Allowing use of a classic or pro controller would have made my life so much easier. The Wii remote and nunchuck controls are clunky and would make me feel like leaving the game at times. I started up the PS2 version just to grab a clip of it, and I felt more at home with those controls. If you're really interested in playing Rygar, I would recommend either the arcade classic or the PS2 version. If the Wii version is all you got, you can still play this one, but you'd be missing out on a lot of the feel the PS2 version provides. Hey everyone, Chris Gildart here with another Musou review. I've said it a bajillion times that Dynasty Warriors is a series that got me into Koei and Tecmo, but it was Monster Rancher that I played first from the two companies. That being said, when I first started following them, they were just Koei. I started out like many people with Dynasty Warriors 3, except it was Extreme Legends that I played first. After playing a demo of Dynasty Warriors 4 on a PlayStation Underground demo disc, I couldn't help but start looking for that Koei logo on other games, and one of the games that I found was Crimson Sea 2 on PS2. This game was like a futuristic Warriors game, a pseudo-Gundam game when you look at its gameplay mechanics mixing close combat fighting with gunplay. But there was one game that eluded me for years since the time that I started up Crimson Sea 2, and that game was Crimson Sea, the very first one. Crimson Sea was released exclusively for the original Xbox back in 2002. Then the sequel came out on PS2 in 2004. You know, I feel like this is where Kingdom Hearts may have got its inspiration for its game releases. So the reason why I'm playing the first instead of the second is because I saw a comment that said that this was exactly like Mass Effect. And for a game to be only a generation and 5 years behind Mass Effect and get that sort of praise, I want to see if Crimson Sea stands up to that. Now, I haven't played Mass Effect before, but we're still going to jump into this review with the first pro. First things first, for a game being compared to the likes of Mass Effect, it had better have a decent story. And I can confirm that this game is pretty damn good. Sho and Yan Qin, though it's pronounced as Yan Quinn in this game, are essentially for-hire investigators. When this woman whose name is, Live D? Well, she sure makes my D pretty lively. She hires Sho to retrieve something for her and ends up capturing him and Yang Quinn. She takes them up to the spaceship of the IAG and asks them to lead G Squad and she'll pay them. Joe takes the job begrudgingly, but Yang Quinn is finally happy to have a meal to eat. They then meet up with the useless members of G Squad and finish a couple of missions before finding out that Sho is a Vipa, which essentially means that he has superpowers that can make explosions. He's also the last Vipa according to Lord of D over here, and he's supposed to help rid the galaxy of the creatures called mutants mutons trying to kill all of humanity and save the universe. It's honestly told in a lot better way than that, and it's very gripping. I honestly didn't want to stop, but games from this generation and back take a lot of processing power to render, so I had to take breaks between some missions to allow my El Gato to do its thing. I can't remember anything from Crimson Sea 2, but so far this game has a great story that makes me want to keep coming back. Con! There are some games where I can give a pass on the controls, even when they're not ideal for the situation. Games like Onimusha, Kingsley's Adventure, and Resident Evil all work fine with their constrictions. I still played those games alright and wasn't held back too much by their controls. Some of you may have put 2 and 2 together at this point, but for those of you that haven't... Crimson Sea has tank controls. Yeah, I don't know whose idea it was to use tank controls for an action third-person shooter, but it holds you back so much. Turning is a chore, and it can sometimes make you... Oh god. Mutons will catch you with your guard down all the time because you can only really aim in front of you. There is a dedicated 180 button, but you'll forget about it thanks to the wonders of the modern shooter controls. For its time, it was probably passable, but I'm definitely not used to it. I feel like it does hold me back from getting the full enjoyment out of this game. I find myself in the middle of combat, really mowing down these mutons when all of a sudden I'm flanked and I have to turn myself 90 degrees. I feel like I'm turning a rusty gear. If this game was redone with modern controls, it would be in a much more playable state. As it is right now, it's about as practical as those swimsuits in DOA Extreme. Pro. Similar to other games around this time, Crimson Sea had implemented a tutorial that you can take at the beginning of the game. Unlike most tutorials though, this acts as an extra bit of story as Yang Quinn makes sure that Sho still has his wits about him. It's not just an NPC radioing in to say, "Hey, you see those mutons over there? Press the X button to shoot at them. Hold down the R button to lock onto them and make sure you don't lose sight of them." It's actually done very tastefully for the gameplay provided. I mean, there's one stage where you are being swarmed by mutons. Too much for your pathetic piddly pistol. So what do? You still fight until you catch eye of an item in the distance. You can swing your silly, sophisticated... Okay, I'm done with alliteration. You fight your way to the item and find it's an upgrade to your current weapon. You equip the upgrade and your pistol becomes an auto rifle and your sword becomes a spear. With the increased firepower and range, you are better suited to take on these mutons. Again, it's not like your corporal comes on the radio and says, "Hey kid, you should pick up that item and press the back button to access your inventory." No, I don't need you! Then there's the overall controls. At first, it was weird for me to press X for your gun and Y for your melee. Coming from Dynasty Warriors, I wanted it to be the opposite, but I found myself using my gun more frequently, so the control scheme actually made sense in the end. You also have your Neo Psionics set up as the white button, which doesn't feel too bad at all. You can hold the left trigger to strafe, and of course, A is jump. This all isn't bad for an early 6th gen third-person shooter action game. I never felt like I was fighting the controls in this game. Well, at least not until... Con! Around a few stages into the game, you come to a point where you start visiting different planets and districts that need your help. These can be everything from escort missions where you need to guide the president through a muton-infested area, to an auto-scrolling stage where you need to collect a certain number of things in order to progress, otherwise, it's game over. I don't know if I need to tell you that this is the worst part of the game, and it comes pretty early on too. And during the escort mission, you can even damage the president yourself. Wait, can we get a mod for this game? The overall feeling I got from these games is that they were thrown in for variety's sake. Some of them aren't too bad, like the one where you have to protect a ship while wave after wave of mutons spawn and Yang Quinn needs to fix the ship so you can continue. But for the most part, it's utter annoyances that hinder the progress of this game and makes you feel like you're being forced to babysit, being forced to jump over hurdles, being forced to play a game you weren't expecting to play. Just give me more of that swarm stage. That was a lot of fun. Pro. You know, I'm not gonna lie, for a game that was released in 2002, this game looks really damn good. I'd even go as far as to say that this is the best looking Koei game for this generation. The cinematics are well shot, the angles are all well done, the character models are on par with what we would expect from this developer. The original Xbox's progressive display is put into full force for its time and really outputs a clean and crisp picture. I honestly didn't think Koei would be capable of graphics this well done. I've always said that Koei's character designs are really intricate, but to see something from this era of Koei's repertoire with this quality is just great. I keep saying I'd love to see a remastered version of Dynasty Warriors 3, 4, and 5, but it really wouldn't take much to remaster Crimson Sea. They just have to up the resolution a bit and give it to us in 16:9 and I'd be very happy. I would love to see this game remastered with the technology we have today. Con! Holy shit, this game is good! But you know what's not good? Crimson Sea 2. Now don't get me wrong, it's not a terrible game, but it just doesn't hold a candle to this first title. It just feels like it's mission after mission after mission after mission after mission. At least with the first game you feel like you're playing through an actual story, but with the sequel it just feels like cleanup. It's almost as if Crimson Sea 2 was all the rejected stages and ideas from the first game. The other thing is, it throws out a lot of the mechanics that were really good in the first entry. Stuff like multiple weapons, party building, and a huge lack of cinematics too. And what cinematics we do have are so lackluster in comparison to what we've had before. And sure, you get a new character, but Crimson Sea 2 still doesn't have the same customization options as the first one. Fine doesn't add anything. Both Sho and Fine only have 2 guns and 1 melee weapon. This is very different from the first game where you have a very wide array of weapons that you can use. And when you change your gun, your melee weapon also changes. It's a really cool idea and helps the first game feel so different from the usual shooter entourage. Wait, is this last con actually a pro? Look, I had to mention this because I actually first played Crimson Sea 2. The only reason why I wanted to go and review the first one was because the Xbox outputs a progressive display for its games where the PS2 doesn't, and the fact that I hadn't played the first one. I went to it expecting it to be worse, less refined than the sequel. I didn't expect the first one to be leagues ahead of the second title. While playing Crimson Sea, all I was thinking was, damn, I like the second one as much as I did? How? The first title is so much better than the second. Yeah, okay, that last con was actually more of a pro. I struggled really hard with trying to figure out what was wrong with this game. My biggest gripe was the tank controls. That being said, there are a few things that I'd change to optimize the overall controls. I'd still want to utilize the twin stick style of modern shooters, with the triggers being used for iron sights and shooting like usual. Then the X and Y button could be melee attacks, B could be your Neo Psionics move, and the shoulder buttons, or in this case the black and white buttons, could be used to switch between weapons and Neo Psionics. There's really no need for a reload button because the weapons are all energy based and reload themselves. If we got a Crimson Sea 3, this is the control scheme I would want. After all is said and done, I've got to say I'm incredibly impressed. I never expect to get this hooked on the first Crimson Sea game. I did enjoy the second game, but I thought I'd just be, you know, okay with this one. I was pleasantly surprised with what I started up and couldn't put down. The story is well told and I want more of it. The multitude of weapons and the way the game treats you, the player, and how you learn its mechanics is great. Sure, there were some stages that were annoying, but overall, I enjoyed a lot of the stages that I jumped into. Some of the stages made you think, and even the annoying ones became more enjoyable once you had that aha moment. When you realized how to properly do some of these time stages or the escort missions, I felt like I had truly succeeded. Now, I need to give this game a rating, so I give Crimson Sea on the original Xbox a 7.5 out of 10. The game was a lot of fun, and I'm going to continue playing it because it deserves that. And even though I will sing the praises of this game, I understand it has flaws. The controls really suffer from its generation. Solid controls for this type of game weren't quite as commonplace as they are now. That being said, I will always ask for a Crimson Sea 3, a remaster, or a reboot. Please, Koei, don't let this be lost to the seas of time. Hey everyone, Chris Gildart here. Nintendo has been getting a lot of Musou love lately from Koei, but it hasn't always been that way. Before the Switch, only a few games got ported to Nintendo consoles, but back in the 6th generation of gaming, we got a hack-and-slash game that not only found its way into my collection, but into my heart. No, it wasn't Crimson Sea, Dynasty Warriors 4, or even the first Samurai Warriors. In fact, this game wasn't even a Musou title at all, but it had an overall feeling that was very similar to the classic Warriors games we know and love, and this game was Mystic Heroes. Released September 2002 for the GameCube and later in December of the same year on the PlayStation 2, Mystic Heroes follows some of the characters we might know from Warriors Orochi, Taigong Wang, Neja, and some friends as well. Though, here in the West, we got some different names. Taigong Wang is now just known as Tai, and Neja is now Naja. Also, Naja is a girl in the West. Now, I'm going a little too into detail with this intro, but what you need to know is that Mystic Heroes was seen by some as the Nintendo Warriors game for the generation. So how is Mystic Heroes? As the only Koei title to be released on the GameCube, is it a worthy figure to represent the company? Well, let's find out with the first Pro! Other than the visual style of the game, the first thing you're going to be greeted with is the combat. Overall, this is definitely a warrior-style combat system. You have your normal attacks, your Musou-style special attacks, etc., except there's one little difference. Instead of having a charge attack, you have magic attacks. And there are 2 different types of magic, ranged and close combat. You can use ranged in various different ways. You can either tap it to fire out in front of you, or you can tap it like a charge attack during your normal combo and throw down a bomb of elemental destruction. The other use is to hold down the button and aim your magic at various enemies, locking onto multiple and firing a bunch of smaller bolts out. Then there's the close combat magic. This kind of acts as your Musou ability for the game. Again, there are various methods of using this ability. If you use it while your magic gauge is full, it will create a huge maelstrom of attacks that will devastate the nearby enemies. If your gauge is partially filled, you will do a string of attacks that seem very reminiscent of the Musou attacks from Dynasty Warriors 2 through 6. If you press it during a normal combo, it'll act very similar to a charge attack. Lastly, if you jump and use the magic, you'll throw a bomb down to the ground, blasting nearby troops. Magic runes can also be found throughout the stages, which can be swapped for a character's usual set of abilities. This can keep things fresh by providing a different moveset or by powering them up a bit with stronger magic. In most cases, characters don't have a magical ability in every slot, so this also provides them with that much needed prowess. These subtle changes to the usual Warriors formula are welcoming, and on top of the familiar aspects of the combat, create a package that any Musou fan will feel not only comfortable with, but also probably really happy to sink their teeth into. God! One thing that you'll also notice upon starting up the game will be that there is no free mode. There's only story, survival, and multiplayer. This means a couple of things. First off, since multiplayer is a selection on the main menu, you can't play the story with 2 players. This is a bit of a disappointment because this game would have been a lot of fun going through the main story with a friend. Secondly, other than playing each stage in order, the only other single player experience you have is survival. Now this mode serves its purpose. It's nothing special, but it's also the place where you unlock most of the game's unlockables. There's really only a couple that you actually unlock from the story. Lastly, since there's no free mode, should there be? I mean, if the devs didn't put it in, there must be a good reason, right? Well, there is. In Mystic Heroes, you do not carry over your stat increases that you have earned through story to other modes or difficulties. Yeah, so if you want to unlock the stuff from survival mode, you just have to power through it. In fact, some of the things you might even be able to unlock right off the bat. Not being able to carry over your stats from one mode to the next is one thing, and I can't confirm the whole difficulty thing personally, but the guide I was using to unlock some of the runes said you can only carry over your stats if you beat the character's story, and only if you replay the story on that difficulty. That's crazy. I hope this was a rumor or just something that was in the Japanese version, because there are things that you can unlock from the story by beating it on easy, normal, and hard. And I imagine they didn't make it easy on us by making it all pop after a hard mode run. I would have liked to see them implement more of a stat-related growth system, similar to that of the classic Warriors games. Considering it came out after Dynasty Warriors 3, I don't know why this feels so lackluster. One thing you may not know about me is that I like kawaii things. And the chibi style of the characters in Mystic Heroes is no exception. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a new Dynasty Warriors game done in this chibi style. Maybe something along the lines of the artwork from Dynasty Warriors DS. But at least we have Mystic Heroes if we never see such a Warriors game in the future. The art style for this game is somewhere between Dynasty Warriors 3 and that Inuyasha RPG for the PS2. You still get the intricate character models from Koei's art crew. They look spot on for this generation of their repertoire. Even the minor troops are stylistic and match the world that was built around them. You also get this very mystic Asian atmosphere from all of this. Now I know this was based on a Chinese novel called Fensheng Yanyi, but this was kind of Americanized for the Western release. They renamed everyone to fairly generic sounding Asian names, but honestly, it works. When I first played this game back in the day, I didn't know it was based on a Chinese novel. The whole atmosphere screams Asian culture, and I love it. God! A lot of people say how modern Warriors games aren't very difficult anymore. Many people point towards Dynasty Warriors 3 and 4 with their more aggressive foot soldiers and those fucking archers. Well folks, I've got another game to point a finger at and say this game has some smart troops. Mystic Heroes is a tough cookie, that's for sure. The generic troops will actually put up a fight sometimes, but even more than that, the bosses of these stages can really pack a punch. I thought I was gonna die quite a few times while playing this game, and during the boss fights, this was amped up to 11. You really have to utilize the dodge rolls while facing off against some of these enemies. One of the worst things is that nearly every single attack either makes you stagger for way too long, or literally knocks you back to last week. It's almost as if every single troop you fight is the equivalent to an enemy officer in Dynasty Warriors. I don't mind having a bit of difficulty to overcome, but I've said it before that I tend to play video games with the intention of relaxing. Like, these enemy troops have so much power that my allied officers are actually having a hard time. It feels like I'm playing Overwatch as Mercy on a team of Genjis who can't stop crying for healing because they keep swarming the point with no strategy. No, you're bitter. Then there are the archers. The fucking archers. I hate archers in these sort of games. In the classic Warriors games, they always pissed me off, but I was able to overcome them. In Mystic Heroes, they have fucking steroids and they can fire incredibly damaging bolts at you. They are the most overpowered enemy you'll face, and they will make your blood boil. Guaranteed. Pro. One thing I enjoy about Mystic Heroes is that it feels like a classic Koei title a la Dynasty Warriors 3. It does a lot of cool things that I was happy to see in a game like this. One of the biggest things is the voice acting. When compared to Dynasty Warriors 3, Mystic Heroes seems like fucking Citizen Kane. No, it's not that incredible, and it's not going to change your life, but there are less poorly delivered lines and less emotional dissonance than Dynasty Warriors 3. And now that I mention it, Dynasty Warriors 9. The other thing that put a slight smile on my face was having progressive display on GameCube. I love it when games from this generation provide a modern display resolution, because it makes capturing footage that much better, as I always love giving you guys the best looking content. The fact that we have a progressive display on top of this game's art style means that it doesn't age in the same way that other games from this era might. The last thing I want to mention is that since this was released on the GameCube, we got a feature that I wish would be given to us in a mainline Warriors game. 4-player co-op. Yeah, I couldn't get 3 friends to jump on a couch and play this with me, but if you want to experience some of the 4-player content, you can jump into the multiplayer with some PC players. I imagine this would have been a fun experience with friends. I wonder what that's like. God! One thing I dislike about Mystic Heroes is that it feels like a classic Koei title a la Dynasty Warriors 6. It does a lot of things that I can't stand. One of the biggest being how the PS2 version has more content than the GameCube version. This might not be quite as bad as Dynasty Warriors 6's situation where they went back a generation and gave more content, but the other thing is that the PS2 literally has twice as many characters. These characters being some of the ones that you would run into throughout the original character stories. Speaking of those 4 characters, there's another thing I need to mention. There are really only 2 stories. Shiga and Lonnie have the exact same story, while Tai and Naja have the same as well. Since I played the GameCube version for the sake of this review, I can't say whether or not the 4 new characters in the PS2 version also bring only 2 new stories. Maybe they only bring 1. Maybe they just rehash the same fucking story you get in the base game. On top of having only 2 stories between the 4 characters, it's really just mixed up stage progressions. The first stage in Naja and Lonnie's story is the Battle of Mount Senkai, while for Shiga and Lonnie, it's the 4th. Sometimes the type of enemies or the time of day will be different, but it still has the same boss at the end, and it still has the same layout and progression, and it still felt the exact same. Now, even though the PS2 version has more content than the GameCube, while not having a progressive display option, at least we got that release. I said earlier that Mystic Heroes is based off of a Chinese novel called Fensheng Yanyi, but Koei also put out a tactical RPG of the same name on the PS1. They also put out a sequel of said RPG on the PS2. The original Japanese title of Mystic Heroes was Botaru Hoshin, and there was a Game Boy Advance RPG they released called Magical Hoshin. That means that there are a total of 3 games we didn't get in this series. I think a tactical style version of this game would be loads of fun. I also want to mention something that only plagues the GameCube version. Some of you may know this about me, but I honestly don't find the GameCube controller overly comfortable. Yeah, it's good for platformers and some very, very specific games, but for Mystic Heroes and other hack-and-slash titles that use a similar combat system to Dynasty Warriors, it just doesn't work. Buttons don't feel well laid out. Jumping with B is weird and feels clunky, but attacking with it, Y, or X doesn't feel right either. This is just me rambling about my disdain for the GameCube controller, but it affected my opinion of the game. Lastly, you remember in the last Pro I mentioned the 4-player co-op? That was exciting, right? 4-man couch co-op in a Musou style game. Now, you ready for me to crush it for you? You can't play multiplayer at all in story mode. Nope, not at all. Not even 2-player. The multiplayer is delegated to these challenges that are kind of similar to a free mode, but not quite. These are only fun for the first few runs, then it gets tiring. Why would you put multiplayer in a game that would benefit from it, then bastardize it and give us a half-assed job? I mean, seriously, if you're gonna give me some ass, I want the whole thing. You know what? This game isn't all that incredible. A hack and slash action game similar to the likes of Dynasty Warriors with only 4 characters, 2 stories, hard as hell difficulty, and barely passable multiplayer. But I had a lot of fun. Sure, it wasn't anything special, but I enjoyed my time with it. If you have a GameCube and that's all you've got and you're looking for a Koei-style hack and slash experience, this is literally the only choice for you. But it's not that bad. I had a good time with the story, and the boss battles were pretty exciting once you figured them out. They weren't like Dark Souls crazy, but you definitely needed to understand their patterns and learn what works and what doesn't. So in the end, Mystic Heroes on the GameCube was a fun, middle-of-the-road adventure, which I would give a 6.5 out of 10. As I said, I had fun with it, and if you enjoy classic Warriors games of this generation, you'll more than likely find a good time as well. But the bare-bones nature of the game makes it a hard recommendation if you're already able to play the classic Warriors titles. This is definitely something I can only recommend to people who either own a Wii or a GameCube. And even if you own a Wii, I'd recommend Samurai Warriors 3 or Sengoku Basara over this one. Hey everyone, Chris Gildart here. I thought long and hard how to bring this series to the channel. Monster Rancher was the first game I ever played from either Koei or Tecmo. I played Monster Rancher 2 all the time. I even watched the anime and went as far as to play the card battle game on PlayStation and Game Boy. As a kid, the top 3 monster collecting shows were Digimon, Pokemon, and Monster Rancher. Everything else was scrubs. Except Metabots. Metabots was kinda cool too. But today we're not reviewing Monster Rancher, we're not let's playing it, and there's no challenge. In today's episode of Discussed It, I'm taking you along with me on a journey. Now to decide which Monster Rancher game to play. I don't own 1 or 4. I don't have a DS capture device, and the Game Boy Advance games wouldn't be as much fun to go through. I've played the hell out of 2, and 3 for some reason just doesn't do it for me, you know? So you know what? Let's go with Evo, the 5th mainline entry in the series. Monster Rancher Evo was something I just never had the opportunity to play. It, the very first game, and DS were the 3 North American releases I just never got my hands on. So today I wanted to tell you a story. And that story is my adventures in Monster Rancher Evo for the PS2. Alright, so I start off the game as a circus performer. I apparently train monsters to perform in the routines and try to make a bit of cash off of it. When one day, the mochi that I've been working with makes a bunch of mistakes and decides to run away from the circus to die, so its friends don't have to see it during its last moments on Earth. Good to know we're starting off on a light note. While sitting there fucking mourning, this chick Neuta shows up and is like, "Sup y'all, I can summon monsters with magic," and makes this Heartless out of a disc that we had laying around. And now it's time to give him a name, apparently. I always suck at this. Emple? Nah. Mai? No, that doesn't work either. Naib? Dekrof? Ekmot? Sidiv? Now let's just go with Little Duder. That's nice. During this intro, we get introduced to all the other members of the circus. There's Albert, or Albert, I don't know, there's no voice acting in this. He's a discount joker who is the leader of the troupe. Then there's the diva, Marlene. I honestly don't know what she does here. Finally, there's Goffrey, or Joffrey. Again, don't know. He's a big lug that looks like he's better suited in something like Soul Calibur than Monster Rancher. Unless he is a monster. So it's decided that Neuta will join our group and help create monsters for us to enslave and force into performing for the general public's amusement. You know, very animal-friendly stuff. My character doesn't really feel very comfortable with his abilities in training monsters, as he thinks the other monster ran away because of me for some reason. But Neuta says that I should play this instrument with my soul, and the anima that comes from it will help train the monsters. This apparently works on the first try, because of course it does. I'm amazing. After this, Albert introduces me to what's all gonna go down with the daily routines. I need to plan the monster's training, feeding, and recreation. I ignore this and try to go exploring. Oh, hey, Goffrey. Why you gotta be blocking my way? Oh, apparently Marlene wants to talk with me? Fine, I'll go see what she wants. Get your own goddamn cake! Oh, fine. I'll only get your cake because you're paying me, and I want to go exploring anyways. So I go into town and take Neuta with me because she can't be bothered to be alone. And, where do I go? I'm seriously lost. How hard is it to find a cake in this village? Oh, of course. It's literally the last house I try. Alright, let's get this cake for Marlene so we can finish up and get on with the actual game. Alright, well, fine. Let's just go see what else we can do with this game. So we can train here and see what's to come with the performances in the future. And it's a shitty rhythm game. Great. So I did the shitty rhythm game a couple of times just to get a good feel for what's to come. And, what do I do now? Like, seriously, what do I do? I've talked to everyone. What do I... Oh, I actually need to select to move to the next week. In older titles, you would just pick which type of training you wanted to do with your monsters, and the weeks would go by automatically. So this is a bit weird at first, but I guess I'll get used to it. Alright, week 2. If Marlene needed a cake last time, what will I need to do this time? Huh? Oh, you don't want anything else, Marlene. Godfrey? You're good too? Nayud is good as well. Alright, fine. Let's run into the village and see if anyone there has side quests for me. No? Maybe there was something I missed? Let's go back to the circus and check on the monster. He's all good too? Yeah, apparently you just need to skip a couple of weeks before anything interesting happens. After a couple of weeks, Albert mentions that he thinks Little Duder is ready for an actual performance. Which I'm like, okay. I mean, the little guy has only existed for like 4 weeks. He'll be fine. Everything will be fine. My last monster only ran away because he would rather die than be with me. So this is gonna be fantastic! So we start the performance and I do my little ditty with Nayuda doing her jig. Apparently if I do well at the shitty rhythm game, my monster will perform better. Alright, so let's see. Oh, good! It wasn't just the tutorials. The actual gameplay parts aren't on beat or anything. They just happen. I mean, it's not hard so far. And we complete our performance. Oh, is that cash monies? Yeah, if we do well enough, people will actually just throw money at us. Maybe I should join the circus instead of this whole YouTube thing. Do you see this? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? Seriously, we performed so well that the crowd was lulled to sleep. Apparently Albert thinks we did well, at least. After the performance, the mayor of the village comes to visit and he says he wants me to take part in the village's tournament called the Devil Hunter Championship. Excuse me? Devil Hunter? What do you mean, Devil Hunter? 'Tis nothing. Yeah, that's what they all say, bub. This doesn't stop the mayor or Nayuda from convincing me to give it a try. Well, we're gonna be competing in a tournament. We should have some powerful monsters. That being said, I can only have one monster at a time right now, and I don't really want to get rid of Little Duder just yet. But apparently I can scan discs anyways to add new monsters to my book. This was one of the funnest things to do. Pop in a CD or DVD and see what kind of monster was held within it. So I put Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore in, and oh, damn, you're right, Nayuda. This is a cool monster. Let's give Dynasty Warriors 6 on PS2 a try and see what this gives us. This seems fitting. Now, what's something weird I can try? Oh, I know! Cold Stone Creamery Scoop Up on the Wii. Oh wow, that gave me a purebred hair. He was one of the main characters in the anime, and I have a lot of nostalgia for him. Apparently Nayuda does too. Is there something you want to tell me? The next few weeks are pretty boring, and this is where I'm reminded of how much waiting you have to endure in Monster Rancher. I just checked on my monster here and there, asked everybody if they needed help, and did the odd show. Really, nothing exciting. Albert kept mentioning that different exercises would train my monster better, and would involve various members of the circus, and I would need to figure out what to do each week for the sake of my monsters. But I wasn't able to change the training my monster was doing at the time. I honestly thought maybe I glitched the game. But then I figured out I had to actually talk to the mayor and trigger the tournament. Oh well, Little Duder gained some stat ups from the shows we put on anyways. So we head out for the tournament location and find 2 other breeders. I'm gonna take a wild guess that these are my rivals and the bad guys we need to beat. And with poses like that, I'm gonna take that as a yes. So Dottie and Petty are apparently the only other people who take part in the tournament. And we whoop their asses thanks to tutorial power. After the battle, the mayor rejoices that a breeder will now actually kill the devil that's been lurking in the woods. Listen dude, I've only been doing this for a couple of months now, so don't put all that weight on my shoulders. When we get back, Nayuda mentions that we should get a team together to bring into the woods so we're not defenseless. You know, if you're going into a suicide mission, you need some sort of suicide squad. Or so I've heard anyways. So she says I should summon some more monsters. Now, as a collector, I don't want to just grab the monsters that we've already created from the book. I want to try some new discs and see if we can get some different monsters out of it. So let's see. Why don't we try a Warriors clone like Drakengard? This has got to get me some good monster, right? Well, apparently it's just too good of a monster because Nayuda can't summon anything from it. I remember this happening in the older games too. That way you wouldn't accidentally summon the best monster in the game right away. So why don't we try another game? This time, let's throw in Dynasty Warriors 4. Again, this is a good game, so we gotta get something good. And same thing happens. Okay, don't do this to me, game. I finally tried Digimon World on PS1 and get this flame slime. Of course, I had to name it Hot Stuff, with a PH. I then tried Dynasty Warriors 3 because I want a monster on my team to come from a Warriors title. This gives me an armored hare, and it looks pretty fucking rad if I do say so myself. And of course, we gotta name this one after the strongest character in the game. There we go. And now we're off to the forest to kill us a devil! I actually really like this part of the game, and it's a bit different from the other exploration minigames of the series. It really enforces the JRPG style of this game. You walk around a map finding random monsters roaming about, and treasure chests left by who knows, filled with what's-its that you can use whenever. In all honesty, this kind of reminds me of Dark Cloud, which is a good thing in my books. We also get to experience the full combat system of the game. Similar to the combat of previous games, the distance of your monsters to the enemy decides which moves you can use. But this time, it kind of goes for a pseudo turn-based mechanic. You can move back and forth freely, but the moment you hit X on your monster, that's when the combat begins. You choose your move, and if another monster of yours is linked, or in the same position, they'll be able to attack at the same time, creating a sort of combo set. It's difficult to truly grasp at first, but it's a whole lot of fun. As you're traveling the dungeon, you'll also find things that your monsters can interact with. The monsters you take into the dungeon can also walk around with you, and some you can even ride. Yes, you can ride the slime. This is amazing. When we get to the end of the dungeon, we find a little kid who Nayuta thinks is kidnapped by the devil, and rather than finishing the mission we started, said we should go back to the village and ask the mayor if people have been going missing. You know, instead of potentially stopping the thing that's been doing the bad stuff. Okay, game, you're the one driving the story, not me. So Nayuta and I go talk to the mayor and find out he doesn't know anything about the monster kidnapping children. So before we go back to the woods, we must train. This is a monster that's stealing townspeople and devastating the way of life. So we put on another circus. But we did better this time now that we have all these monsters to help out, and everybody gets a good stat boost. Back in the forest, I find out that not only are the monsters back in the same place as they were before, but so are the treasure chests. We're also really kicking ass through this dungeon. I'm honestly just running into the wild monsters just to get some AP, gold, and items. It also took me a while to recognize it, but do you hear that? So we find ourselves next in the spoopy forest, where the trees have scary faces and it's a maze. Multiple exits, but only one is right. The others just loop forever. Great, I love these Scooby-Doo inspired things in video games. Lucky for me, I find my way out and continue on my adventure. We finally run into the boy we're trying to save, and he's like, "Leave me alone!" And we're like, "But we're here to save you!" To which he just runs away and doesn't explain himself. Suspicious, indeed. When we actually corner him, he finally explains. His name is Tico, and he's actually the devil that's been terrorizing the village. Seriously? Okay. He's then like, "I'm gonna fight you so I can prove how devilish I can be." And I'm like, we got this. I've got 3 monsters that I've trained in the last couple of in-game years. How tough can you be? We don't got this, we don't got this, we don't got this! Wait, Lou Boob, you survived! Well, of course, you're Lou Boob. You can take him on, buddy. Just hold on to that 19 health. You've got to hit him sooner or later, right? And you're dead. Well, that was effective. Glad we could all come together for this. Well, after that utter failure, it's time to train. It's time for battle after battle. Time for circus after circus. No rest. Sleep is for the weak. We will train. We will develop a specific set of skills. And we will win in a fight and not actually kill you because it's a game for children. But if it wasn't, I would kill you. It is time. After weeks of training, it is time to take on the one that wronged me. The one that hurt my pride. Today is the day he reaps what he sows. Oh. Okay, that was a lot easier than I thought it'd be. So it turns out this little dude was actually raised by monsters and thinks people would see him as a monster if he tried to interact with the villagers. So instead, he acts as a monster. Dude, that's just feeding the stereotype, man. If you want to make a change, you gotta make it, dude. And literally, that's essentially what we do. We bring him back to the village and he apologizes. Everyone accepts it, and we have a very nice little happy ending to it all. After the apology, Tico decides to join the circus crew. From here, everyone decides to move on to a new village. We're off to Kulno. What adventures will we have? Well, I don't know, but I'm excited to see. But that's where we have to leave it. It was very difficult for me to narrow down what I wanted to do with Monster Rancher, but I'm glad I went this way. A review would have taken me forever, and now I've finally experienced Monster Rancher Evo. Did you enjoy this video? Let me know in the comments below whether you'd like to see a sequel, or maybe a similar video in another game. This marks the final scripted video of this year's Musou May. So I hope you've enjoyed the videos I've posted this month, and the ones still to come. Don't forget we've got a new schedule starting next week with lots of Koei goodies to start up with. So don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for all the videos to come. Special thanks goes out to the guild who support this channel via Patreon. If you'd like to join their names at the end of every single video, check out the links on screen or in the description. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I will see you all down in the comments.